Very special. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing here on NoFilter.net, Caffeine TV, and all of the platforms that are kind enough that are willing to risk enough to carry this program. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, and the question of the day, of course, is to hedge or not to hedge. We've gotten to the point here in our gambling ventures where we're only living vicariously through other people, and in this case, it's David Portnoy of Barstool Sports. Did he sell that company twice for like $150 million each time? That's pretty amazing, right? Didn't he sell the company to like Penn Gaming, the people that own Penn National Racetrack, and then they've expanded their horizons, various casinos. So they had a ton of cash. They incorporated Barstool Sports into it. Like $150 million goes to Portnoy. And then they decide that I guess it wasn't profitable enough for them to keep investing in it. So they give it back to the guy and he sells it again. Amazing. Lubie, how come we can't have that level of success here? It's gotten to the point here where, as you've kind of frozen up on me, it's gotten to the point here where, the whole thing is blown so far out of proportion. Portnoy's betting like millions of dollars on virtually everything. I think he stuck $150,000 on fierceness up the track on the recommendation of one of the handicappers there, Jonathan Kinchin, who was a very successful handicapper when it came to gambling and horse racing contests, but at the same time lately has had a penchant for giving out the chalk. Doesn't take a genius to come up with the favorite, even if you like them. I mean, if you like the Celtics in this series, don't tell anybody, all right? Please don't tell anybody. But Portnoy had 150 grand at 7-1 on the Edmonton Oilers, and they eke out a victory last night. Well, they dominated the second period, and they end up moving on to the Stanley Cup Western Conference Finals now to take on the Dallas Stars. At least I'm hoping that score held up now, and I'm thinking I didn't even bother to check. Yeah, Edmonton. Yeah. All right, very good. Too. All right, if you were betting the series, I don't know if you were betting 150,000 on Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup championship, but definitely breathing a sigh of relief after they won the last couple of games in that series, in their series going against the Vancouver Canucks. Lubie's pick to win it all, Mr. Don Cherry. So you're facing elimination here, or already eliminated. BetOnline would be the place to go, though. It's your number one source for all your summer sports this season. MLB still going strong, although our Marlins Ben is looking a little shaky now as they're starting to win game after game after game after game. We had them dead and buried by the All-Star break. Golf, NBA, NHL playoff stats. They have all the latest stats, news, scores available to follow your favorite teams. You get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there, which, I mean, people are betting shot for shot on golf at this point in time. So the landscape of gambling and wagering has certainly changed, and these guys can help you out. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet online, where the game starts. So where does that game begin? We've talked about this in religious contexts in the past, because, Lubie, you were not in agreement with my theory that it's possible, and maybe this is my own just Jewish paranoia, and I am Jewish, so I feel very comfortable saying this, especially on NoFilter.net, where there's no filter. You can say whatever you want, and if the people dig it, good, and if they don't, go ahead and send in the hate mail. We're okay with that, but is hedging a bet a Jewish thing? That's the question. I don't mean to imply or cast any aspersions that they're about frugality and things like that. It's just, it's practical, isn't it? If you had a chance to win like $1.2 million, I think is the payoff on this bet for 150,000 that Portnoy has. If you had $1.2 million coming your way, if the Edmonton Oilers eventually win the Stanley Cup, that means they have to win 2, not 1, but 2 more series. Yep. When do you start to hedge? Would you have hedged a little money off in Game 7? Because if Vancouver beats you, you're out, and you're out 150 grand. Do you throw 50,000 on Vancouver to get some of your money back in Game 7? Is it too soon to hedge? That would be the question. Yes. When do you start running a little bit scared? Yeah. Or you realize that you made a good futures bet, but there's a strong possibility that you get nothing out of it. In fact, you get spanked right on the ass and lose your 150 grand. They still have to win 2 more series. One would be, of course, the upcoming series against the Dallas Stars, who have played very, very well. And that was another one of those weird things. Talk about reverse hedging. There was a handicapper that was saying, go ahead and bet them when they were down 2-0 in their previous series. And sure enough, they went on to win that and came back, bounced back, won the second series. And here they are in the Western Conference Finals with a chance, I would imagine, would they be slight favorites over the Edmonton Oilers, who Are they coached by Chuck Knobloch, the old baseball player? Who is this guy?
No, some
Young
Knobloch.
guy, he's just staring out there. He really doesn't look the part of a hockey coach. Like you would never, if they had him on to tell the truth, that old show where the guy used to stand up and they would fake like it was number one or number two, and then number three would stand up, and you knew it all along. You would never guess that this guy was a hockey coach. That this would be the last thing because he doesn't have that hockey hard-on coach look that is fairly typical. Some guy that looks like Bruce Boudreau, right? That would be coming out of a Volkswagen in the circus if he wasn't coaching hockey. But anyway, what would you do? Would you hedge off in this series and maybe lay off what? If you laid off another 150,000, you're still going to win 900,000, and you could afford to hedge off again. Now, would you hedge off to the point where your payoff would be $500,000 if you were right, but you weren't going to lose the 150,000 if you were wrong? Lubie, what do you think?
You get into the hedging weight. I mean, then don't make the bet.
Because it's such an overwhelming concern. And then there's a guilt factor involved because it's sort of, is it a gutless move or is it a prudent move? That's the question about hedging.
When you get to the Stanley Cup, you bet on this team, especially if you did it all year. If you bet in the season, a team to win it all, they get to the Stanley Cup. Yes, I think you're dumb to not hedge at that point because you have a 50-50 shot.
If they get to the finals, yeah, sure.
Yes.
At least get your money back so that you don't lose money.
If you're hedging every round, then you're just betting against yourself at that point. To me, I mean, again, he has a lot to lose. Fine, if you want to throw 50 on it, on the hedge, just so at least you win 50, I guess. But you still would lose 100. So, like, to me, I wait to the Stanley Cup. If Edmonton gets the Stanley Cup Finals, then yes, I would game one fucking hedge just to cover my ass. But to start hedging every round, I mean, then you're just...
It's a little too soon, is what you're saying. A premature evaluation.
Me, yes.
In other words, you're a gutless putz if you hedge off now. Is what you're trying to tell the people out there that watch the morning briefing every day. All right. So anyway, we're living a little bit vicariously through another guy's money. Is that not other people's money? That's the way to go. And it's a lot easier on the wallet if that guy loses and you don't have any vested interest whatsoever in the outcome of the event. Now there were some people that would say, hey, wait a minute, man, this guy's going to lose. He never tells you about his losses. He's like Money Mayweather, always posting and bragging about big wins. But you have to figure that there had to be some hideous and ridiculously tough beats involved there for millions of dollars. So you don't hear too much about that. So I don't know. I guess, too, if you have a couple of $100 million in the bank, what's 150? Why would you hedge trying to chase your possible losses at that point when you had the balls to bet it to begin with? So always an interesting question. Now, is there anybody out there that believes that the Indiana Pacers will win this series against the Boston Celtics, Lubie? Apparently not.
No.
9-1 in the series. The Celtics are favored. 9-1. You have to lay $900 to win $100 on the Boston Celtics. That's another one of those questions that you really have to ask yourself. Look in the mirror after you're done making this wager and say, did I really just throw $900 at the possibility of winning 100? Did I really throw $9,000 at the possibility of winning a dime? Did I really throw $90,000 at the possibility of winning 10? Now that, I don't know, would you take that? That's like what, 12, 13% on your money? Would you take that? If you had 90,000, would you lay it on? Are they that much of a veritable certainty to win this series over the Pacers that you would risk 90,000 to maybe win 10?
I mean, I wouldn't do it, but if I had money, it would be worth it. That's still a nice return on investment. I mean, that's not a ridiculous like the other way, but that's more of a like when you invest in something. If you get 10 to 15% back on your investment in 6 months, you're happy. So
yeah, but you're not counting on 5 guys dribbling a basketball, one of whom may tear a hamstring and then knock you right out of the box.
I wouldn't do it just because there is still a little bit of risk because if Tatum or Brown gets hurt, then the Pacers to me would be the favorite. I mean, the Pacers actually aren't that far off talent-wise. The problem with the Pacers is they're young. And from night in, night out, they're not consistent. As much as the Celtics throw away a game every series, they've now done this 4 or 5 years. They've been together. This exact group's been together like 3 or 4 years, and Tatum and Brown have been contending for conference championships for like 5 or 6 years. So this is this team's first playoff run versus this team that's been to like 5 or I think they've been to like 5 conference finals now as Tatum and Brown. Like it's not even fair. But in this sport, we've seen injuries change everything So just on that alone, I wouldn't do that bet. But on the hopes of injuries, I wouldn't go 9-1 either. Like the Pacers, I think, get a game, maybe two, because they are one of the best offenses in the NBA, and the Celtics do fuck around a lot. And the Celtics are counting on a lot of guys that really aren't NBA players, like Hauser, Pritchard, Horford. At this point, like on most teams that are contenders wouldn't make the roster. The Celtics just put so much.
You have to get a look at his birth certificate. You've had him anywhere from 70 to 107 years old.
It's like 94. Horford. So like it's just they put so much into their top four money wise. I mean, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Brown and Tatum have like max deals, so you have to fill the roster out with garbage. So and they're getting stuff from them. And a Derek White, who's a marginal starter, is played like an all-star for a lot of these playoffs, and that's great for them. But it really comes down to those four guys. They haven't had Porzingis. Anyone else gets hurt, okay. But I mean, we haven't seen Brown or Tatum get hurt in these series.
So if you're betting the Pacers, you're saying that you really need to be banking on somebody rolling an ankle and missing the next 6 games.
Go to
Pacers in 7, by the way, is 20-1. Is that at all tempting to you? You're getting 6-1 if you bet the Pacers to win the series over the Boston Celtics, which I would have to think if you polled 100 Americans, 99 would say that Boston is going to come out on top. And I'm not even sure if Caitlin Clark would pick Indiana to win this thing, which, by the way, she was in action last night. I ended up watching a little bit of a WNBA game, Lubie. What is the problem with the WNBA? Is it the air balls? Is it the bricks? Is it the missed layups? Is it the sloppy turnovers? Is it the fact that balls go up against the backboard and before anybody grabs the rebound, the ball actually bounces on the floor 2 times? What do you think it is, Louis, about the WNBA? There's something when these people keep trying to bridge the gap of time and say that the women have arrived, and maybe that's true to a certain extent, and it's great to see them getting attention. But then when you do pay attention to it and you're watching just a bunch of outright slop, now you could see that in an NBA game too, but not to the level that I was witnessing last night in what was actually a very entertaining game between the Connecticut Sun. And do they play the same team every night in the WNBA? What do? They only they played the Sun like 6 times already. They've only played 5 games. Familiarity breeds contempt, I guess. And Caitlin Clark wasn't half bad in the ball game, but nonetheless, her Indiana Fever team have yet to win. They were right there fighting to the wire. They were deadlocked at 82 with like a minute inside of a minute to go. And then Connecticut went to the free throw line. Caitlin Clark, though, a hell of a passer. But overall quality of play, even though this was professional basketball, and everybody's quick to point out the difference. Oh, this woman's going to get smothered now. She's not in there against a bunch of college girls. These are grizzled veterans that have played in Europe, and they've been elbowing each other for the last 15 years in the WNBA. Quality of play overall, Louis, I would have to say, this is not good, right? Get ready. I mean, watch the mailbox for the hate mail. Not exactly of a very high standard. I mean, what I saw was just unadulterated and pure and raw ugliness. All right, interesting. The Timberwolves favored by 4.5 in Wednesday night's opener, and yet they're underdogs for the series to the Mavericks. The Mavericks are, I believe, minus 185, nearly 2-1. I don't think it could be that high.
That's dumb.
Mavericks minus 185 to win the series.
Tools are vastly better team. I know.
I mean, think about what they're saying there. They're telling you that the Mavericks are nearly a 2-1 favorite to win the series, even though they're underdogs in game 1. So the bookies are assuming, or at least they're trying to line people up to back the Timberwolves in the series. That they're telling you that the Timberwolves are more than likely with a 4.5-point spread to win game 1, and yet the Mavericks are nearly 2-1 after losing that game, in theory, hypothetically, to win the series. Do you see that? I mean, that math, that's a permutation I don't know that I buy into at all. I actually kind of like the Timberwolves in this series, which means go ahead and take the minus 185 on the Mavs, no? What do you think, Lubie? 2 big, giant 7-footers in there for the Mavericks to contend with. Yeah. Outstanding, oppressive defensive presence out there on the court.
And Edwards,
I don't know that the Mavericks stack up. What do you think?
Edwards is the best all-around guard / wing in the series. As good as Luka is, he's a sieve on defense, and as good as Kyrie is, he's a sieve on defense. Like Edwards plays both ends of the floor. He's the only guy on the perimeter that does that in the entire, especially for the Mavs. Look, I get the Mavs have come on and they beat a really good Thunder team in very, very, very questionable fashion. the Timberwolves are a better team.
What,
I
that
get
bogus foul that Adam Silver ordered, called at
exactly,
the end of the game?
and I
To
get there.
pacify Mark Cuban for all the fines he's paid over the years, making up for what was going on before with David Stern?
I mean, well, that whatever they're in, that's fine. But the T Wolves are the best. I mean, and I get it. It's only this group's second time in the playoffs, and the Mavs. A lot of that team did make a conference finals under Luka, but like, let's be real. I mean, the T Wolves have a better team, and they're way better end to end than the Mavs.
Home court edge.
And they have home court too. I don't know, whatever. They're trying to drop interest here because to me, anyone who looks at this would go T Wolves.
Yeah.
Well, T Wolves win, fine. Nothing's guaranteed. Obviously, we saw what the Mavs just did to a really good Thunder team. But I mean, to lean Mavs, it feels weird to me. It feels like
Plus 145. You're getting nearly 3-2 if you bet the Timberwolves in the series. That's not bad. Oh. And then the question would be, if you're up 3-2 and you're getting plus 145, to hedge or not to hedge? This is the question. I still think, I don't know why I feel my Jewish guilt coming out on that, but I think it's a Jewish thing. I really do. You're not even as inclined to hedge as I am. Man, what a wimp I am when it comes to bet. I will leave you on that note. Thanks so much for tuning in. A very exciting time coming up as we're kind of whittled it down to the real contenders here. And most people believe that it will be Boston and now question mark, I guess, from the West, because I thought the Nuggets were sure to emerge. We thought we could see that clearly just last week. And here we sit with how does egg look dripping from my eyeball here with an omelet on our face? All right, a lot of fun being with you, as always, on Caffeine TV, NoFilter.net. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. You guys have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time, the next edition of the Morning Briefing.